Well, welcome into Wednesday night service. Kind of strange, isn't it? As we're going through this pandemic, it's kind of different. Everything's different. And there could be a huge fear factor that's coming up in our hearts, in our family, in the nation. And this is not unusual. Israel went through many times like this, especially David. Many of the patriarchs in the Old Testament, New Testament went through times of uncertainty and fear. Abraham had a fear he wouldn't have a child and that he wouldn't get Sarah back from the Pharaoh and many other things, right? As Jacob had fear for his family, he had fear that he wouldn't be providing for his family, that he'd be killed by his brother. David had fears when Saul was chasing him, also when he sinned against the Lord and Absalom, his son, came up and took his place, and David was on the run. And so you could have a lot of fears. Fear that the Lord isn't going to come through for you, fear that you're going to be overcome by the circumstances. And so I wanted to go through Psalm chapter 3 or the third Psalm, because it really fits into this. This was one of David's lowest points where he was on the run, and he was worried about family. He was worried about his home. He could lose his home. As a matter of fact, he did for a while, and that even his own life. So read with me. Psalm 3, verses 1 and 2. He cries out to the Lord. He says, Lord, how have they increased who trouble me? Many are they who rise up against me. Many are they who say, there is no help from him in God. And so here it is. This is his prayer. It's a fearful prayer, right? Starts off kind of fearful. He's under physical stress. He's under emotional stress. Sound familiar? So you and I might be under these circumstances today. Everybody's quarantined. You don't know about your loved ones. You don't know about your own health. Don't know about job security. All these troubles cause fear in us, right? The thing is, you don't want that fear to get above what you can handle physically. And fear is talked about in the Bible quite frequently. 367 times in Scripture, fear is talked about. Now, not all fear is bad. Some fear is good. So you have a fear of falling off a cliff, so you don't go quite to the edge and you don't risk falling off, right? Some of us have a big fear of this virus that's going around. So you wash your hands. And those who have been, monk-like in their washing, right? Germophobic, have been telling us all along, right? Wash your hands. See, we're right. Well, you are, wash your hands. That keeps you safer, right? So we're washing our hands more. We're using antibacterial cream and soaps and antimicrobial things because we have this healthy fear of getting sick. That's okay. But letting that fear get too far where it controls your life, where it starts causing you to be afraid to do anything, that's dangerous. So when we're dealing with that, your fear and anxiety will go back and forth, and they're almost identical, right? It's anxiety also has the stress with it, also has some of the worry that goes into it. You can be fearful of something because you're worried about it, but anxiety has more of that prolonged worry, that chronic worry that comes in. And so you can hear this in his voice. He says, hey, these people are out to get me. They're all around me. They're even saying, you can't trust in the Lord. Where's the Lord? Is the Lord going to be there for you? And so it begins to be manufactured by people outside. If you're watching too much of the TV, you're watching other things, this fear factor starts to come in you. It throws off your neurotransmitters. You start to have more adrenaline going through your system. Then that's what causes the palpitations, the rapid heartbeat, the panic attack, depression. If it's prolonged, you can have fatigue, ulcers, right? You don't want to go there. There's no need to go there. what's so great about this is because in the next verse, 1 and 2, he's like, oh my gosh, they're around me. Oh my gosh, it's surrounding me. There's no way out. Just like right now, we're sequestered. Wherever you go, the virus may be. Whatever you do, you could possibly risk infection. It's a scary thing. But God's there. And that's what he goes into in verse 3, right? Read with me. Psalm 3, verse 3. It says, but you, O Lord, are a shield for me, my glory, and the one who lifts my head. I love this. This is what I love about David. And you could see why David is a man after God's own heart, because he's fretting. He's like, this is what's going on. This is what I'm hearing. It's causing me some anxiety. I'm having some fear. But I kind of centered myself. I sat before the Lord and I said, but you, Lord, you're my shield. You're my protector. You're my deliverer. And when I'm down, when I'm afraid, you're the one who comes and grabs my chin and pulls it up and goes, it's okay. You know, I'm all worried. I'm all fretting. And Jesus reaches over and he pulls your head up and he goes, I got this. It's okay. No matter what comes, I'm with you. He's the lifter of my head. Trust in him. And he really starts going through these. There's kind of like 4 things in the next few verses here that really help us out in this area. You know, basically, he's my shield. Well, a shield protects you, but it protects you when you're in battle, which means that he doesn't always protect you by pulling you away and hiding you away. It's nice that we can sequester ourselves in our house, but it only lasts a little while. Eventually, you got to go out, whether it's a spiritual battle or a physical battle. You have to go out, and the shield goes with you, though. The shield is your protector. The shield is what you trust and you stand behind. That's what we do. We trust in the Lord. You stand behind the Lord. When you're in danger, when you feel afraid, just get behind him. He's the shield, right? He's the one that's going to cover us. Doesn't mean he protects us from all attacks. Doesn't mean he protects us from any kind of danger. It means that he can overcome that danger no matter what it is. And so understand that most fears are unwarranted. You hear these things talking about the virus can stay, afloat for 24 feet and stay on surfaces for 17 days and all that. Yeah, but that's not how most people are infected, right? And on 17 days, I guarantee you that virus is not as virile. It's not as efficacious as day 1, right? So they can find traces of it is what they're finding. And it doesn't mean you could get infected, but the chances go down every day, every hour, every minute, because that virus begins to break down. There's entropy happening. It's drying out. It's not really alive. It's this RNA and DNA that's encapsulated in this protein, right? And as soon as that outer shell begins to get soft or degrade, it's not nearly as infectious. So we could worry about that, but the whole story is it really isn't coming from that, right? And so as he goes and talks about this, David had this understanding that until the Lord is done with me, until my time is up, he's going to protect me. He's going to guide me. I like this. David Livingston said the same thing. He was a preacher, a surveyor, desired to go to China. God sent him to Africa and through his government to basically survey and map out the country, make contacts. But he turned it into an opportunity to preach the gospel. But malaria was down there, these other things, and many of his men grew sick, and they thought he was dead because they hadn't heard from him for months and months. So they sent Stanley, right? So he had Stanley and Livingston. And Livingston was asked if he feared going to Africa. It's too difficult, too dangerous. And he said, you know what? I'm immortal until the will of God is accomplished in me. So are you and I. Until God has his full purpose for us, we're going to be here. If he calls us home, he calls us home. But he calls us home to glory. He calls us home to perfection. And so that's a hope that we have. There's a hope in 4 ways that he's a shield to us. If you're following Christ, he's a shield in the sense of if you're obeying his commands, then you're developing godly character. Godly character protects you from things that can come back on you. If you've been treating people poorly, if you've been cheating at work, if you've been doing things, you might be the first to be let go, right? But if you're the person who's gone the extra mile, it doesn't mean that you won't get fired, but they may hold on to you because you're more valuable. You're the loyal employee. You know, a character as a shield also protects you from harming yourself. And that's a blessing. So character comes when you're applying the knowledge. So knowledge is a shield, right? Because knowledge applied is wisdom. And so you may have great wisdom in following the Lord, not panicking, because there are people who are panicking and they're turning to drinking. They're turning to online gambling. They're turning to fast food and comfort foods, and they're draining their immune system. And having good knowledge along with good character teaches you the right thing to do, wise things to do, still choosing wise choices even in the midst of difficult circumstances. And then there's this shield that's, I guess, for lack of a better word, a toughness shield, right? Just a kind of stick-to-itiveness. I'm going to see this through. I trust in the Lord. I've got strength in him. Whatever comes my way, good or bad, I can face it. And this is a powerful shield because it's basically like God's courage, God's encouragement for us, right? This toughness shield. And these 3 things allow us to act. So if you have a good character, you have good knowledge, scriptural knowledge base, godly knowledge, and this kind of godly encouragement, strength, then you're going to act in the right way. You don't have to be, woke. You don't have to be, awakened into a place of, you're not in a stupor. You're ready to go. You're ready to act. In other words, fear can stop you from acting. Anxiety, you overanalyze everything. When you've got this courage and character and knowledge, you tend to just act and act properly. But right now, disobedience can be deadly. So I like what the shepherd of Hermas says. He says, the devil offers only fear, but his fear has no strength. Do not fear him, then he will flee from you. That's so true. Even scripture says in James that if you submit to God and resist the devil will flee from you. So if some of this is coming from the enemy, you stop those things from coming. You pull those thoughts down. If it's coming from your own flesh, you bring every thought captive, right? And this character, the knowledge, the toughness will help you entrap those thoughts and put them off. Every time they come back, you put them off. So he says in the second part of verse 3, he says, the Lord, you are my glory, the one who lifts my head, right? So he gets us because we're looking at things of the world. We're looking at our own health. We're looking at, and he lifts our head and he goes, look at me. Look at me. Look at my kingdom. Don't fear the loss of temporal things. You'll be okay. I can restore all these things. It's so cool that God comes in like that. He's just like that good dad, right? Chin up. It's going to be all right. Going to be some tough days. We're going to be all right. And part of this is that you begin to handle that stress and anxiety. Now, it's one thing to say spiritually, I'm bringing this in, other things, and you're trying to calm your body, right? So you're starting to get your spirit and your body. Your body will usually follow what your mind and stuff is doing, but sometimes it's hand in hand. Your body starts to freak out, then so does your spirit, right? So some of the things you need to do, David is calling upon the Lord. So he's meditating, he's going in prayer, he's spending time with the Lord. This is a worship song, right? This is a psalm. And so this is something that he's doing to quiet his heart, quiet his body. We tend to tense up. If you feel your body tensing up and in your teeth, you're gritting your teeth, right? And you're starting to relax, tranquilo, calm down, right? And Do those things that you normally do. Stretch, yawn. These are the things that break up the lactic acid that's going through your body. You get the blood flow going. You get oxygen in. You want to lower your blood pressure, and so these short little breathing exercises of breathing, holding your breath, or going for a walk is going to be great for you. Verses 3 through 8 in Psalm 3, it says, I cried to the Lord with my voice, and he heard me from his holy hill. I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me, and I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me all around. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God. For you have struck all my enemies on the cheekbone, and you have broken the teeth of the ungodly. David, and he doesn't mince words, right? And he goes, you know what? I'm okay. I cried to the Lord. I love this because this is one of the things that you need to do is let it go. Not let it go in the sense of I've been holding on to this too hard. Let it go in the sense of I'm being too British. Keep a stiff upper lip. Don't cry. Don't show any emotions. It's like, no, let it out to the Lord a little bit. Cry out to him. This, I cried out to the Lord, means that I was singing at the top of my lungs. I was letting this go before the Lord. It's okay to call upon him, to call upon his holy hill. The holy hill is, where they would go and they would have the temple there, right? Because it was at the higher part of Jerusalem on the high mount, on the holy hill. But that's the holy hill is where he was crucified, Mount Calvary. We cry out because that's where his mercy lays. The one who is pinned on the cross, when you cry out to him, he was pinned so that he could grant mercy and grant grace and grant love. And so trust in him. That sustains you. Your peace will return. Part of keeping your peace is getting your sleep. He goes, I had a good night's sleep. It's good for your immune system, isn't it? It's good for your psyche. It's good for your emotions. It's good for your spirit. Get that sleep. Well, I didn't sleep good last night. Hey, grab a nap. Grab a power nap. It's not slothful if you call it a power nap, right? See, some of the leading doctors and people who study immune say you need your sleep. And part of, even if you don't get a full night's sleep, if you take that 10, 15, 20-minute nap during the day to kind of recover, that'll boost you incredibly. It'll help you. Not quite as good as having that REM sleep, that rapid eye movement, deep sleep that you get through the night. It still helps you, right? It'll help you cope. And he says, focus on the Lord. It's the Lord who brings salvation. It's the Lord who brings deliverance. It's the Lord who brings the things you need. He says, there's the birds of the air, but I feed them. There's the lilies of the field, but I clothe them. You just trust in him, right? Not the power of others. And so he continues on in verse 8 there, where he says, arise, O Lord, save me. You struck my enemies on the cheekbone. You've broken the teeth of the ungodly. Man, that's David is like, I like David. He's not politically correct, is he? He's like in your face, but he's also loving. The people loved him because he just spoke the truth. And he said, there's 10,000 people who are after me. Now, that's not hyperbole, because think about the army that he used to command of Israel is now under the command of Absalom, his son. And they are out to hunt him down and kill him. And so he's got his 500-600 men. And those aren't good odds, right? So you may be thinking, my odds, and we hear these incredible numbers of not thousands or tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands of people dying in this COVID-19 virus epidemic, pandemic. It's scary. But you know what? God can stop this virus. His people need to humble themselves. We need to pray. We need to fast. I want you to know, church, that we sent out that email. Every Friday I've been fasting and praying for you and the nation. We are pulling together resources to help the needs as they come up. And you've seen the email out asking for those resources. We're doing the wise thing, we're doing the smart thing, but ultimately we're trusting in the Lord to complete everything, because man can only do so much. Science can only do so much. But with the Lord, all things are possible, right? So it's so encouraging. So stand up, cry out to the Lord, get yourself in a place where your fear is controlled. You're going to have bouts of it from time to time, maybe not. Get your fear under control, trust in the Lord, and watch him work. These are the times where God comes through for his people. He doesn't leave his people desolate. He doesn't leave his people. You go through things. Paul went through things, right? Paul was handcuffed to someone and imprisoned, but yet God was with him and he worked mightily through that. And until the time was done, they couldn't, no matter how many assassination attempts, other things, they stoned Paul. They didn't kill him because it wasn't time yet. So I'm encouraged in the Lord that we're going to get through this. We're going to be stronger than ever. And that in the midst of this, we're going to see people come to know the Lord. You know, when we have drive-in church, we had 4 new people show up that hadn't been to our church before. So I used to pray, Lord, fill those seats in the sanctuary. Now I'm saying, Lord, fill those parking places out there. It's funny, but God's working in the midst of this. Church, be strong. Don't be fearful. God is for us. And so I want to say, hey, Pastor Scott is signing off, but I love you guys, and I'll see you drive-by. We'll see you at Drive-By Church. It's funny. All right, God bless you.